So, in this video, I'll be using the Black Mamba, the Quicksilver. Now, I haven't used a fixed handle in, 20 years or so. So I'm a little rusty, but man, I struggle. I ain't gonna even lie, y'all. I struggle. But you see this S arm? I have something impulse me to want to use the end of the mop because I saw some soil debris in that area. But you see that red rubber stopper? Some of you probably have never seen that or what it's for. I'll be showing y'all what that's for and when you would want to use that feature. But for you that want to use the end of your mop to scrub a little harder, I will have to show you a little trick on how to do that with that particular tool. You can still do it. Now, you see I'm cross-pulling, right? Because on this particular window, the frame doesn't work well with fanning because I have to get stuck detailing. And I don't like detailing. Never have. And most likely I never will because my tools are set up to not have to do that. But since I'm not familiar with this tool, it probably can be done without straight cross pulling. But even if you're good, and I know a master, and even he still details his corners because he's thorough like that. But I don't, because you know why? That's an extra step. If I can eliminate a step, you're still working smart and you're saving time. The end result is still the same. Now, you see how I'm going on an angle? I'm bypassing that rubber piece, right? This mop would only be good on wide frames because it doesn't allow that water down the frame. But what happens when you have a thin lip? This rubber stopper will prevent you from getting all the way up to the edge. And if you have a heavily soiled window, even that little bit of water on the squeegee is not enough to clean that edge. It will streak. I'm going to tell you. I have proof to back that up that it will. So just be mindful of that. You have to take a different approach. It's all about paying attention to what you're doing. You can have the best tools in the world, but if you don't know how to wield them, you're pretty much spinning your wheels, and it's pretty much useless. Just like this tool would be useless if I didn't know how to clean windows at all. I will be chopping windows up left and right. You feel me? So for me, with this tool, going back to basics and keeping it simple is sometimes what works. You will literally spend more time playing around the window if you're fanning because you don't want to leave all that water in the corner. You could forget about trying to go back with a tool like that unless you have Sorbo glide in the water. But, especially with a large channel like that, you better be correct the first time. Because with a large channel, it's kind of hard to swing back for something you missed mistakes on. So cross-pulling ensures that you will not have a mistake, but you better know how to do a cross-pull correctly and a straight pull correctly. Learn how to feather. And that tool is better than most. You know why? Because the balance on that squeegee is perfect for feathering, because with feathering, you have to have it just right. You have to approach feathering with finesse. You can't have too much of a heavy grip, and you can't have too light of a grip. You got to be somewhere in between. But when you do it, you have to do it with such grace and finesse. This will allow you to not have to detail. Now I've mentioned plenty of tricks on how to do straight pulls correctly. I made a 2-part video about straight pulls. And most people can't think that it can be done to explain that much about straight pulls because it's not rocket science. Yes and no. You see how many times I'm going up? If you don't do your feathering correctly, that's exactly what you'll be doing, going back over your work. This is why most people just say forget about it. If they don't get it done right the first time in the first stroke, it doesn't matter because they're coming back with a rag to detail anyways. But see, I don't like the detail with a rag. I like the detail with my squeegee. To me, that's wasting a step. If I can eliminate a step, you're working smarter, not harder. You know? Now, this window is tinted, so it gives you some resistance. Now, with the one pass or the slipstream or the combi, I never had a problem swiveling because I had constant glide. You see how I just started off with feathering? And you see how you can do that with, swiveling, fanning, I should say, not swiveling, fanning. But you got to be still mindful of those corners and just learn how to be a little bit more cautious when you get to those corners, unless you're going to go back, like I'm about to show you now. All right, so for me, this is different, having two separate tools, but watch how I swing down, then I come over, right? You see, I don't like the way that left is, so I went back and feathered. This is how you make a correction right away without fighting so much because you notice something. If you catch it early and you feather where that bead of water is, that bead of water is enough to actually make that correction because you still have water on the channel. Now, because I don't have a small squeegee, you see how I just defied the laws of gravity and squeegeed upward and over? This is about working smarter because I'm too lazy to take them damn posters down. To me, that's a step. It's something that I have to do. Now, you see, you have to detail because you had all that stuff in the way. But that's okay because it's still quicker than pulling it down, making sure it's lined up in the right position again. Some people get get their panties in a bunch when something's not straight, or is off-centered, So I'd rather just not touch it in general, Not that they would think it's a big deal, but still, if I can leave something alone, I will and go around it. Unless, of course, it's nasty, dirty, and I got to take it clean behind it, too. Like a sign that's been up in the window, and they haven't had their windows done, and I can't just go around the sign because there's so much dust. Going around that sign, you will be able to see that from the outside for sure. You see what I just did? That was nice and easy peasy. But take a look at what you see here. A bead of water when you did that swung over, right? This is what I don't like to see. Now, that's not a big deal to some storefronts and commercial, but residential, that's a no-no. You don't leave that. So you have to get stuck detailing, especially on certain framework, which is why I can't understand how some people would use a Sorbo on residential, and unless they're just not worried about the fact that they have to detail. I would. You know why? Because I get stuck detailing the heck out of that damn house. I'll be ragging it from the second floor all the way down to the first floor because I couldn't get the corners right. So I would never get stuck ragging the heck of out of a house. I would just see what I'm doing there. I would just do it simple. Straight pulls, cross pulls. And I won't have to detail, And you're not losing that much time by that. The only time I'm losing is by having two separate tools. That easy transition, although it may not seem like a lot, is a big deal because those seconds really make a difference. When you have a whole bunch of windows and you're talking about what else can you do to save time? I guarantee you save time in that area, all right? So now you find another area to save time. So let's say your normal routine with ledges. Your brain should always be thinking on every job that you go to to say, well, what can I do to shorten up the labor on getting these ledges done? So instead of getting a little toothbrush, now you might want to get a little sprayer and squirt some juice down that track and get a wet dry vac and suck it up. Then take your rag and wipe, you know? But let's take a look at this next clip. What's my favorite? All right, Sorbo, everyone. What's my favorite? I have to say the black one is. Now, when I observe the channel, it's literally identical, but what makes these squeegees different is the handle itself. And no one told me that, but I found that out all on my lonesome. But when Sorbo was explaining to me 40 and 90 degree, I didn't know exactly what he was talking about. I thought he was talking about the ends. But now I see he's talking about the neck, because I observed this closer, and if you look, the black one has more of a curve. So this is why I probably favor this one, because it gets right into the corner. Now, I was using this squeegee, and I like to say this is what you call a no-fuss squeegee. Now, some of you may have never heard that. That's what I call it. Someone else probably calls it that too, but when you think about what I just said, it makes sense. Now, what most fuss squeegees are is Mormon and Wagtail. Why? Because they move around too much, right? Now, Mormon is very, very poor at straight pulls. You can do it, but it's poor at it. That's more of a specialty squeegee, because it takes a little finesse. Same as Wagtail. Wagtail is poor at straight pulls. But once you master these tools, you can do straight pulls, or you can do fanning, whatever. Now, when it comes to straight pulls, this has to be the most user-friendly for straight pulls. It's a no-fuss squeegee. So if you're a beginner, this is the perfect tool, because you have to do straight pulls, right? Starting off. And you get more of a cleaner, providing you can do straight pulls correctly anyways. You can use this squeegee to the point of having no detail at all. I don't know if Louis experiences that. I know Louis puts a rag on a pole and details his corners, because Louis sterile like that. When you're fanning, I noticed that you will have to detail the framework. It's a given. Now, some may be able to do that without, but see, I'm used to using a dog-eared channel, so I don't like detailing, and I never have to, but I had to with this. It's not that big of a deal. So halfway through, I got tired of paying close attention more or less on the corners, and then I kept it simple. Went back to basics, straight pull. This is a fine tool for those who are just want to keep it simple and they don't want to do all that fancy stuff. This is why this is probably the better tool on a pole for straight pulls. That black one, man, I gotta tell you, it gets right up there in that crease of the window when you make your first pull. More or less using this to let some of you know exactly what I think. And you know, this takes a little use to get to when you've been using a swivel tool for many years. This actually is great for first-time users, I must say, especially if you're going to keep it simple with straight pulls. You can't use a better tool for that than this one. You can do straight pulls with any squeegee, but you have less mistakes with this. You don't have to take my word for it. Yeah, it's easy for me to say because I know how to do straight pulls correctly. But even if you didn't, you would have less mistakes with this because of the way it gets right into the corner. I can't explain it, but you would have to actually use it to see what I'm talking about and then actually compare it to another blade. I remember using the Etere super channel, and I don't never remember it getting up to the corner like it does with this. Far better, in my opinion.